Hi, I'm Tim, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. There's some days I walk into my office and I realize it's going to be a blue dial Submariner kind of day, essentially a variation on something I've seen many times. And then there are days when I get to talk about something like this, and these are the days I relish. Pierre Kunz was a watchmaker born in 1959 who found his way through the industry as a specialist, basically designing things for others. He was one of the white label watchmakers and fabricators who would create complications and movements for brands that would then go on to put their own name on the dial. In 1998, he joined Franck Muller, and in 2002, the Franck Muller Watchland Group, which is the large assortment of brands owned under the Franck Muller banner, offered Kunz the opportunity to create his own tenant brand within the group. And thus, in 2002, Pierre Kunz was born. Kunz was a specialist in retrograde complications, and that's exactly what we have right here. The model you're looking at is one that I believe to have been launched in 2008. It is called the Grande Sport, so the Grande Sport, and a watch that is very sporty and does indeed include a Grande dot. It's large too, 44 millimeters in stainless steel. It's fairly thin, broad but flat at 12.5 millimeters thick, and then you can see from lug to lug 49 millimeters across the wrist with a 24 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. I'll throw the watch on my wrist, and you can see that the timepiece is exactly as I stated, broad and flat. It does fit. You can see these lugs are not out over the edge of my wrist. From over the top, you can see I've got a little bit of clearance. It's a comfortable watch. I think if your wrist is my size or larger, you're going to wear it just fine. If your wrist is a bit smaller, you're going to find that those lugs start to encroach. Now, it'll fit underneath the cuff. Even though it's a little bit sheer and vertical in profile, it's so thin that it can fit underneath the sleeve without too much trouble. The strap is integrated. As you can see, it closes the gap to the case. It's got a little bit of character lines molded in, and it thins out as you move away from the case. Now, you will note this is a Pierre Kunz factory strap because Pierre Kunz, though no longer a going entity, was part of Watchland. Franck Muller can work on these watches today. That's where you send these for parts and service, and that includes the strap. So if you ever need another one of them, they are the source and the authority. You can see that the clasp is double folding, and it's a little bit of a weird one. It's a twin trigger, twin folding deployment, but let me show you where the twin triggers are located. They're both on one side of the clasp. So you press those two triggers and it pops open. Inside, you can see it's polished with some engine turning, and then there is a little clamp that makes double sure the strap is going to stay put within the buckle. You can see a combination of satin and polish. This is a very secure arrangement. Taking a look at the case, the lugs are very strong. You can see they have small bevels expressed along their profiles. The edge in each case has been beveled to take some of the harshness off and lend it an air of refinement, but it still has a severity about it. You can see that there are vertical satinations on the ends as well as the profiles, satination across the top. The mid case is coined, and we have a little bit of an overlapping case back and bezel, both lips polished, these flanges helping to define the mid case. We have a concentric satination around the conical bezel, and this is a sports watch. You can see the Pierre Kunz logo on the crown. It is a screw-down crown. The watch is 100 meters water-resistant. The dial features one of the watchmaking wonder materials of the 2000s and 2010s, Texalium. What is it? Well, what it's not is carbon fiber. That's what it looks like. What it actually is a sort of woven and aluminized fiberglass. So it's a very resilient material that has a metallic luster and a fabric-like weave, and even a little bit of chatoyancy, as there's almost a holographic-like depth effect when you're looking at it, especially with the applied numerals and indices sitting atop it on the dial. We'll do a quick loom shot to get a sense of this watch in the dark. You'll note that Pierre Kunz not only signed, but actually loomed the hands themselves, and the retrograde in the dark is even more fun than the retrograde in the light. Taking a quick look at the dial, you can see that there is a frame around a large date, 2 discs up at the top. We have a sort of rayonnet or rayon pattern down at the bottom, and rayonnet means sort of sun rays. So more than a sunburst brushed pattern, it's a deeply engraved fan-like profile that defines the scale for the 30-second retrograde. You can also see that the hands themselves are polished. Now, the retrograde is the most appealing part of this watch. As much as I love the Texalium and the unusual use of superluminova, the retrograde is both the most dynamic part of the watch and the part that marks it as a Pierre Kunz. Now, I can tell you in all confidence, the base of this watch is an ETA 2892A2. But what I need to explain in depth is that the module is very much Pierre Kunz. And several years ago, Mike Michaels and I took apart a Pierre Kunz watch that was in for service, and we were shocked by the quality of the finish on the module. The retrograde module on that watch was breathtaking in its beauty and detail. And while it is a shame that you can't actually see the module within the watch, it is there, and that should provide an extreme amount of psychic satisfaction to any person who owns this. I can also tell you that when it came out in the late 2000s, it was extremely expensive at $12,300 in 2008 money. So you really did pay for the quality that's inside. And rest assured, the quality is outstanding. One thing that has been done here that I really love is that we have a certified chronometer that's also a retrograde. That's difficult to do. Jumping a double-digit date and continuously propelling a retrograde takes a lot of energy, and thus there's a considerable amount of fluctuation through the drivetrain of the watch. I'm extremely happy that a chronometer grade base was spec'd and then adjusted and certified. That adds real value to the watch. A couple of things to note. You retain the 2892's underlying hacking seconds function, which you can engage if you pull the crown out all the way. And then there is also a quick set function that allows you to rapidly cycle that lovely double-digit date. So it retains the 2892's underlying functionality. So bidirectional automatic winding, 42-hour power reserve. This is 30 joules with the module, 4 hertz beat rate, COSC certified Swiss chronometer. You can see that Pierre Kunz does a better job than most brands of directly converting meters and feet. The problem is, most people are not going to notice that. But I'm glad that they made the effort to be a little bit more precise. You can see this is a sports model and 100 meters water-resistant, automatic winding, steel and loomed. It's everything you would expect from a sports watch, and maybe quite a bit more, as Pierre Kunz is no longer a going concern. These are quite rare, and it's legitimate high horology built on a very serviceable and reliable base. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.